In today's video, I'm going to talk about Mortem Solis by Krisiun. The album was released on July 29th, 2022 on Century Media Records. Krisiun is an old school death metal band from Brazil. They have been around a long time, and I think they're actually kind of underrated. So in this video, I will give a little background on the band. I'll talk about their sound, the songs, and I'll give a final score at the end. So Krisiun formed in 1990. This was a time when death metal was a fairly new genre. So the band was formed by the brothers, Alex Camargo, Moises Colsine, and Max Colsine. Their earliest influences were extreme thrash and death metal bands, such as Sodom, Slayer, and Morbid Angel. I think for this reason you can hear some elements of classic thrash metal in their sound. Their first album was released in 1995, and they have been releasing albums on a fairly consistent basis since then. This is their first album since 2018, and it has a classic death metal sound. So on this album, there are 10 songs. They are all heavy death metal songs. They do not stray from their classic formula of writing fast and heavy, old school death metal songs. The songs are all around 4 minutes long, with the exception of one short instrumental. The vocals are very aggressive and can be compared to Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse. One thing I noticed that you can understand the lyrics if you listen closely. There are some death metal bands with vocals that are really like so heavy that you can't really understand what they're saying, but this is not the case with them. Now the guitar playing is very technical. They like to add in many different guitar riffs into a single song. The drumming is very precise. They add in lots of blast beats played throughout the songs. Most of the songs move at a very fast pace, but at times they slow down a bit to give the listener a break. You hear some elements of thrash metal at times, but I would not call this like a hybrid band. They stick to like their classic death metal sound. And even though they are from Brazil, they bring you like a classic like 90s like Florida death metal sound. So let's talk about some of the songs. I won't do track by track. I'll just do the ones I liked. So the album opens with Sworn Enemies, and right off the bat you hear some brutal riffs and fast beats. The band likes to add in some twists and turns in their playing. The tempos are fast, but they're constantly like changing. The vocals are very brutal. The drumming is very intense. There are lots of blast beats interspersed in the mix. They also do a lot of those like palm muted riffs, common in thrash metal. And you do hear like a little of a thrash influence at some of the songs, but this is a very brutal, like old school death metal band. Then there's Serpent Messiah. This one has some chunky palm muted riffs, and it's very heavy and brutal. You hear an old school thrash influence in the intro, but the song goes full blast as it moves along. Has some pummeling death metal riffs. The song is a very classic death metal sound. You hear lots of rapid fire tremolo picking in the song, and it has like a very dark tone. You also hear some very technical lead guitar playing, and the guitar solos are very intense. And I like the ending to the song as it does get very like intense. Then they slow down the pace with the song Necronomical. This one is a little closer to like a thrash metal song at first, maybe something from like Slayer, South of Heaven. But, you know, make no mistake, it's still heavy, brutal death metal. I think in this song they were going for like a thicker and chunky sound. This one still has all the elements that make up a good death metal song. The vocals are very brutal, and you can hear blast beats throughout the song. Tomb of the Nameless brings back a classic death metal sound with some technical riffs. This one has some more complex ideas on it. It's also one of the more brutal songs. The rhythms are very tight and heavy. They add in some crunchy palm muted riffs and sustained power chords in this one. And this is one of the faster and heavier songs on the album. But they also change up the tempos a little bit, towards the end of the song as well. Like there's one riff towards the end. It reminded me a lot of like "Am I Evil" by Diamond Head or Metallica. They kind of like do some of that towards the end, but this is one of the songs that stands out for me. Then by the time you get to like a little past the middle of the album, you get to track 7, and they have a short instrumental called "Dawn Sun Carnage." And this one gives you a break from all the heaviness because they have these like Middle Eastern riffs and these like tribal drum beats, and it almost sounds like they're playing some type of like wind instrument in the background. And it's only a minute and a half, but this kind of serves as an intro to the next song, which is called Temple of the Abattoir. And this one starts out slow, but then kicks in with some technical riffs and fast drum beats. The song continues with some brutal riffs and blast beats. You get some tempo changes, and They like to keep these songs interesting, so they don't like really like have one idea, and they don't really have their riffs be too repetitive. They like to constantly like add in like new ideas and changes into each of their songs. And I'll talk about one more song, and that's the final song called Worm God. This one has a slow intro. They play some of those like arpeggios with like the cleaner guitar tone, and that's common in thrash metal ballads. But this is not a ballad. It's just a song that kind of starts slow. It's a little slower, but I think they're going for more of those like thicker and heavier riffs at first. But as soon as the first verse kicks in, it's just fast and heavy, old school, brutal riffs, blast beats. They add in some of those like galloping riffs, and that can be heard on a few of the songs as well. And the song brings back some of those like cleaner arpeggios like towards the end. So that's kind of like a nice way to kind of close out the album. So now, what did I think of the album? I think this is a band that always gives you what you expect. Not the type of band that's going to change their sound or experiment with different types of music. They're playing what they know how to play. I will say that all the songs do have a similar sound, but this band does have so many different ideas packed into their songs, so it doesn't ever like sound repetitive, or the songs don't really sound the same. So I think the band is very underrated, and it's a death metal album that, you know, it is very good. It will probably make one of my end of the year lists. So my score for this is an 8.5 out of 10. Let me know what you thought in the comments. If you want to check out some more metal released from in July, check out part 1 of my best metal of July 2022. And I will link that right beside me. I will be posting part 2 very soon. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. This way you don't miss it. And that's all. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.